Welcome,
Thank you.
Brother Atwell,
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Atwell,
Thank
Brother Kemani Nahutsi,
Yes, sir.
Associated Doctor Professor. Welcome to The Rock.
Thank you.
This is The Rock here, and I would like to welcome you all. How was your flight?
This is okay.
Was okay?
Okay, yeah.
Very good.
Uneventful.
Very good.
Went well, good.
Welcome.
So welcome to The Rock. They call it The Rock. And at the time they called it because of the colonial powers and the robbery which was going on in the trade. They called this little place here the Golden Rock. This new narrative which we are stepping away from the Eurocentric terminology.
Emancipation.
Hold on, please. Yeah, the Emancipation Day. Freedom granted, freedom won. So we're going to go into the resistance of our ancestors and how they fought to maintain their freedom. Not that they were given freedom, they were born with freedom. They fought to maintain that freedom so that we can be here today. And Brother Dr. Kemani, Associated Professor, he is specialized in what we call Africology.
And if we can't recognize what we're doing, how we're doing, why we're doing, and so on, how that is related to our history, then we don't understand ourselves, we don't understand our history, and we won't know what to do and where to go. So I think that it's very important that we have what some people might call these practical relationships to historic evidence in our environment. We must know the significance and value of whatsoever is historical in our environment. Very important.
But yeah, I only know where they show you.
Well, that's the problem with these things because there's where the image forming comes in. You're dominating.
As a matter of fact, you're on an what you call it? Ancestral.
Africology.
Right, you're on an ancestral site now because the whole airport was a enslaved cemetery.
And the excavation took place right just below down here.
Right, and on the way up the hill, maybe you should drive it, you can see it. There's a little mark on the ground.
Yeah.
So all this, all this.
Well, this is the airport. Just really, here's where actually they excavated the ancestors to make way for this so-called boulevard here. Yeah. And they're still in plastic boxes inside of what you call a heritage house. But the heritage house is inappropriate at this moment when it comes to the way they are being kept, and the way they are stored, and the climate with the, how am I say that? The
Need for climate
right,
control.
exactly.
Because once you inter, you take things out of the ground that have been there for a while.
It deformed.
Yeah, that process begins.
Yeah.
There are other issues also. Always, whenever artifacts, any evidence of our people's presence in the world is unearthed, revealed, the question of who controls becomes very important. It's not only who interprets these, although that's also an extremely important question, it's who has the direct day-to-day control over, ownership. Thanks, Dr. Kane, of all of these things. So it's something we must be perpetually on the lookout for. Now, we need to establish points, understandings, positions. That's why I asked for a position paper. And things like this, we should be putting in that position paper and say, this is our ultimate position, that we must control all of these things. However, we must also know that sometimes it's important for us to negotiate and even have joint control or something like that. And I think that's an important point we should take, because at this point in time, the system we're fighting against has far more resources than we could ever dream of mustering today or tomorrow. Another key point that I think we should take into consideration is that the system itself is being increasingly undermined from within by people who yesterday and the day before would have supported that system without thinking. And this is important that we understand this, because we are fighting a human battle for our humanity. And there are other groups of human beings who see us. They understand our fight. But they're not going to jump and fight against their own people by themselves, or not all of them. So, the question of who is an ally comes up here. So there are all kinds of things for us to discuss and to reflect in the positions we elect to take during and after our discussions.
What is your take in a nutshell?
Yeah, what I heard him said a while ago about sometimes we do things and we wonder why we do them. I have this discussion often with people because they're like, yeah, but we got to get over it. I said, it is strange that you don't understand that if your ancestors were slaves, I said, those are the people that rear you. So they bring over what they knew. I said, so that is why it's stuck with you and you end up doing things and not fighting maybe hard enough that then you would have fought if you were born free. So I explained that a lot to people, but a lot of us black people don't want to accept our Africanness, and that's such a pity. So I just hope and pray that one day that we'll wake up and realize that although we are here on this rock, we are ancestors of Africa. So
the person who says things like, forget about it, slavery done long ago and so on, that person is likely to be an exponent of Eurocentrism, our oppressor's creed. And I think it's upon that ground that they're familiar with, or they think they're familiar with, that we should engage them. And I, for example, would well ask them a question like, what do you think about Christianity? Christ died how many thousands of years ago?
2000.
And you still gone to church every Sunday? So why you do one thing for people who've been used for a creed that has been used to oppress you, and you don't want to do the same thing to liberate yourself? I think it's questions like these and debates and discussions on these questions that will make people think. And we have to go wheresoever they are and begin with whatsoever their mental condition is. You may not get change in them immediately, but if you just hold that line with them and reason with them, one day you might be shocked. You might just be shocked, because people do turn corners, Of course, some people will remain like that, but many people are like that because they don't know any better. And it's for us to walk them gently. A lot of people don't recognize that we're oppressed. We think that we're free and so on because we could go and gamble and do a whole lot of things, some of which are degenerate. And that's why it's important to raise consciousness. We will not triumph by, like turning on a light bulb. It's unfortunate. I hope it could have happened, but it wouldn't. So raising consciousness, rearranging people's understanding of themselves and the world is not something that will happen overnight. And therefore, we have to be prepared to invest a lot of time and energy with people. But I know something from experience, my own, as well as looking at what happened in other places. It only needs a few people to start. And then you might be shocked. Oh, so-and-so is now, So I say to us, go forward.
Well, the Alliance is an example. We started with 3 people. And now we are global understanding, So, Dr. Kane, listening to all of this, what would you have to add to this?
I love to hear from the community. And that book is going about speaking with the people, right? The ties that you have with the ancestors and with the past, but also the same ties that will take you to the future. But what we're going to have are learning moments and teaching moments. We teach each other and we learn from each other. So I hope everyone could be there on the 30th of June and the 1st of July to listen and talk together with us. And we get what the Ghanaians call a foundation, grounding with my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Walter.
Walter Rodney, grounding with my brothers and sisters.
Again, my name is Kenneth Kuvale, President of the St. Eustatius African Burial Ground Alliance. We have the lead in organizing the Emancipation Day on the 1st of July for this year, with bonded with a decree by government and a memorandum of understanding. And we decide to actually, like I said earlier, before we start recording, our aim is to step away from the distorted terminology, freedom granted, but to freedom won. And about the content of those two terminologies, I would leave it for the coming days while we are doing community engagement with our distinguished expertise here among us, and especially on the 1st of July, which actually is the marking date of 1863, when the Dutch so-called, decided to give us freedom. Whereof my conclusion personally, we were always free. I'm Mr. Kenneth Kuvale. I'm founder of the St. Eustatius African Burial Ground and president. We are right now in a space which most people on the island wouldn't be aware of, which is called the Afrikan Burial Ground. Along with that, we have two forts here. We have the Fort Amsterdam, which is right going up from this side. Then we have the Fort Rotterdam. What's so significant about this area? It is the area where all of the ships, mostly all of them which were coming out of the Horn of Africa, with our ancestors packed like sardines into these ships, will be unloaded to be locked up in Fort Amsterdam, to be reloaded again and redistributed throughout the rest of the Caribbean and the Americas. So basically, St. Eustatius has some form of connection with mostly all of the surrounding Caribbean islands and the Americas for that matter. In this area here, the Dutch is speaking about now reconstructing and investing monies into the Fort Amsterdam. Again, what's so controversial about this moment is that no fort within the Dutch legislation can be owned by a private citizen. Right now, our African Burial Ground and Plantation and Fort Amsterdam and Rotterdam are now ownership to some private citizen on this island, which is a very strange and controversial issue. Because like I said, the only way that you can own a fort is falling under, in Dutch law, the Ministry of Defense. So these are things we need to actually rectify. And one of the other important things is that we are entering the space here with difficulties, whereof all other heritage on the island, whether it would be the Jewish burial ground, the Jewish synagogue, the Dutch Reformed Church and Burial Ground, the Old Church Burial Ground, the Catholic Burial Ground, all of those sacred places are open to the public where the public has access. Every single African heritage of sacred places of our ancestors are restricted to the African community. So we hope by bringing this form of information to our community that they will start thinking about their history and their ancestors, and more importantly, the resistance which was led by our ancestors to have the enslavers industry, the chattel enslavement industry, plantation economical structure and system be capitulated. So it was not freedom granted, it was freedom won. Although freedom won, not absolutely, but our ancestors went a long way to preserve our freedom, which we are cherishing today as African people. Thank you. We brought the UNESCO delegation in 2024 to the island. If you did come, and I sent pictures of this already, where the pizza sail and the big hole out, they try to actually mask that by sending a contractor to cover up the state of how sacred the Center for Archaeology and Research destroyed and looted. Up until today, they removed, I think, somewhere between 14 to 16 ancestors, if I'm not mistaken, remains from this Kodas area, which are still unaccounted for. Well, there are no reports, they are unaccounted for.
See, this kind of thing, you should have legal experts who could subpoena the authorities, take them to a court of justice. Within Holland, if you don't get satisfaction, go to the European Court of Justice. That's your route.
If we look here, you will see a plastic bottle. In 2024, November, we laid this plastic bottle full of flowers in honor of our ancestors. It still represents that moment here. Although it is in 2024, we are now almost 2 years further, and these branches are still here kicking. And we did at the time a libation by giving honor to our ancestors as they lay here behind these stones, in order for them to know that we were proud and honored to be in their sacred space. So that's a symbolic element of our struggle in this, while honoring our ancestors as we go through the struggle at the same time on different areas.
Women played a very important role in the rebellion.
Okay.
There's a character, right? A woman called the Tigress of Tiger Bay.
Mm-hmm.
She was an African woman from the most deprived class or group of people. We don't know much about her except from what racist white men wrote. And this is how you could get valuable information from even the most obnoxious people who don't wish our people well. One of them wrote and said that she was somebody who used to fight policemen. She would take on 2 policemen single-handedly. Now imagine how fearless this woman was, because in those days, we're talking about 1905, police was God. And if a single policeman tell you do something, you did it without question. So here is an African woman who is taken on two policemen in a fight, a physical confrontation, you know, and we have a photograph of her, and you could read attitude, right? So I'm saying that even the most racist of people could give us information that help us to understand our own history. And that's why we need to leave no stone unturned. We need to evaluate all sources and see what information we could get from them, right? And to me, it's valuable that they provide not only their own interpretation of this woman, but also a photograph of her. So you could pick out certain facts and build on that, you know.
So we're standing here at the African Congo burial ground. And I remember hearing stories, and when we interviewed Mrs. Enriquez for the book, she mentioned her husband, who was called the Congo man, wanting to be buried here when he died. But it seems that there were complications. So the person that everybody in station knew as the Congo man did not get to be buried on the Congo burial ground. He was buried someplace else. Because actually I think it's private property too. It's not government property, it's private property. So that's that story. So the Congo man is buried someplace else and not in the Congo burial ground.
This is my first time on station, and it's an honor to be here at the African Congo burial ground and hear the stories and the history of our ancestors who were brought here against their will.
We're here standing together among others, our African ancestors' sacred grounds. This is what we call in station the African Congo burial ground. Problem with it, it's owned, like almost all the others, by private citizens or dubious owners. And the question which we need to ask, how could only the African sacred places on this island are either restricted totally of having access to them by the African community, which is a community existing out of more than 96% of this island. Another question we need to ask, why is almost, I will tend to say all of them, basically speaking, as we know today, are owned by private citizens and not the community of this island, which is the African community. So these are some of the things I would ask our community to start thinking about. Thank you. We are sitting here on what they call Fort de Wind, an area where was built by our ancestors. And when you look at the height of the fort and you look below and you see the labor and the magnitude of the labor, where our ancestors from below had to have brought stones up from below to those who are on the top here designing and building this fort. You could try to imagine the sort of torment, pain and suffering they went through by actually being subjugated to that form of treatment by force. one of the things which is important for us to know as well is that the enslaver was ignorant to architecture, meaning the enslaver didn't have the technological science of architecture to build anything. So most of all of these, although we will call them colonial heritage, I rather call them the colonial structures which were built to as a port or a structure to defend themselves against what they call enemy ships. Because the waters was controlled by the English, the French, the Dutch, the Spanish, and you name it. So these forts were built by the knowledge of our ancestors to actually accommodate the enslaver in their trade and their warfare at the same time. So when we look at history and we look at all of these structures, although our ancestors were enslaved and subject to the most horrendous and insidious form of crime, they still had that capacity in when it comes to knowledge to create such structures at the same time. So I will tend to say, even to these structures which our ancestors was forcefully forced to build, the fact that they built them, they are ours. So these are not some of the other aspects. I believe that when it comes to education and awareness, our community should start opening up their mind and giving thought to. And by giving thought to these aspects as to how they arrived to be where they are today and by whom, it will trigger your brain or your mind to dig deeper, to examine history and gather more information as the true nature of the truth of history, instead of basing and accepting the colonial legacy as it's been taught to us. Thank you. Because usually when we open up these sessions, we always pay honor and gratitude to the ancestors. So I will still conduct that briefly. It's called giving honor and respect and dignity to our ancestors as to what they deserve for their sacrifices. And I will go around the table. Normally we can just hold each other hand around the table and remain seated. It's called libation. I know it's probably new for some of you, but you can consider it as a prayer you're doing in your church and you're giving thanks and praise. So, and you make a wish. You may make that wish aloud. You may make it within yourself, and we will end by saying Amen. Amen, which is one of the words of our ancestors, or Ashe for that matter.
I wish for the ancestors to protect and guide us, Ashe.
I wish that we are able to do much more than we have done until now.
Ashe. May knowledge increase and ignorance decrease. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
Forward. Ashe.
One love. Ashe.
Ashe.
I wish and hope and that we continue building on the foundation which our ancestors laid down, collectively as a people, restoring their dignity and respect, and that is ours in our community as African people. Ashe.
Ashe.
Say mama. And he's been working with the Alliance, the Implementation Commission, and we've been doing some what some will consider to be impossible work. And we are still actually up against the mountain, pushing the mountain forward in order to have our ancestors re-earth in a dignified and respectable manner in November. So it's only appropriate that I let Mr. Zimmerman briefly share some of his thoughts in relation to what he's doing in regard as the designer and the architect who are working with us hardly to achieve that goal.
It's a challenging task. It's community engagement, so it can never come only from me. We have to go through different sections where community had opportunity to give instructions of what they want and how they want to see the design. Back and forth 3 times we are at a design at this moment where we also came to know exactly which land we are going to put the memorial on. Doing the test pits only gave me more information about this land and make it more challenging, because now that you know the land where it's going, you have to go back and redesign, and community is still discussing about what and what they don't want. So it's a kind of a learning process also for me, you know. But I'm ready for the task. I'm taking it head on, and I just opened this afternoon a maquette that I made in 2024, looking at it and thinking of the land, realizing that I will have to adjust this. I have only tonight, tomorrow, because it has to be presented to the chapel piece elderly. So I don't know if I'm gonna sleep tonight, but it has to be presented to them. I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and I'm learning from it also. That's what I could say in a nutshell.
I feel it is problematic that we have to, I wouldn't want to say beggars, you know, we would have to submit project proposals in order to receive funding and have persons determine, is this project something that is worth funding, yes or no? I really have problems with the structures that are in existence when it comes to funding. Because here we are talking about our ancestors, and we have to go through so many steps. That's number one. Number two, the SE-ABG report, we know that the remains were dug up. We know that a report was written, but we still do not have access to the report. That report should be a public report, and it is not. And the problematic thing about that report is that we would like to have the content known of that report in order to plan the reburial even better. But you know what? We are pushing forward. We are planning for our reburial November 13, 2026. And we believe that once we continue to work together as a team, because we are a very strong team. There's no I in team. It's a collective effort. We do believe that together we will definitely get the work done. So I remain very optimistic despite the many obstacles that we have encountered along. That's what I would like to say.
The rights of the people is to have information. And the people's rights have been continually being breached by not having that information and many more information over the years publicized. That's problematic, per definition. And so, the final report concluded that the government turned a blind eye to the crimes or the undignified practices which was taking place. I'm hearing, and I'm not saying this is objective from me, but what I'm hearing is why this final report in relation to the excavation in 2021 has not been publicized is because it's in the report of itself, it is too much of a sensitivity in regard to the lacking of government responsibility. And at the end of the day, that should not be the case, because when government fails, it should be known to the people, and the public should be in their rights to know when government fails. Government is accountable to community. So whether they do good or bad, the community has a right to know about that. And so I'm kind of tend to think and say, seeing the structure and the way and the dynamics which are playing out, we are almost living in a sort of a dictatorship when it comes to that. Because when you are withholding information in whichsoever form, constantly and structurally, from a community, which is their rights, based on, for instance, the UN Article of 27, human rights. It's a breach of people's rights to know and to be informed. And that is not taking place on this little island. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's taking place as it should on any one of the Dutch territories which we call the past Dutch Antilles. So I think it is for us as a people to take a firm stand and continue to fight for what is our rights.
I have not seen the report in question, and therefore I am in no position to make any judgment about its contents. But the situation described here raises some troubling questions to me. And there's a general context in which all of this is located. And that context is the context of the violent and the vulgar colonialism of the Dutch, who did the most unspeakable crimes against our people on this island and elsewhere. You don't need me to enumerate the crimes against humanity that the Dutch has committed. And when I look around and I see and I hear about the treatment of the remains of our ancestors, that's consistent with Dutch crimes against humanity, including cultural genocide, the attempt to erase all aspects of African culture so that we would become pale and vulgar imitations of them. Let me be clear about this. The United Nations has now accepted, a while ago, that every group of people, of human beings, has a right to their own culture and identity. Fact is, in the rights of the children, the UN says that each child must be educated according to his or her own history, culture, and identity. So that's universally recognized. In doing all of these things, the Dutch is still perpetuating colonialism, a vulgar colonialism. So that's one. Two, there are several questions of civilian participation in the processes of government. People on station pay taxes. You pay taxes so that the government could give you services. You pay taxes also because you need to be informed of what's happening in your name. And the government is breaking its promise to you, not only a promise, but its constitutional duty to you, to inform you about what's happening to the money you pay them to do their job and what they're doing on the job, in this case, the report. So, in my estimation, there's a lot of responsibility of the people of station to ensure that you enforce your own rights with the Dutch government.
The enslaved didn't have the architectural knowledge to build anything. Our ancestors, against their will, under the most extreme barbaric situation, built these forts. But to talk about a race and preservation, the fort, millions has invested in it, which became a controversial issue at a point in time. You go a little 200 meters further, the Dutch Reformed burial ground and church is being kept neat and being preserved. You go to the Wilhelmina Park, which is a distorted form of history, because the Wilhelmina Park is not the Wilhelmina Park. The Wilhelmina Park is placed upon our ancestors' African trading marketplace at the time. Now, do anybody read that in the school book? Did most of us on this island know anything about that? No. You go up and you enter the Jewish synagogue right here. It doesn't even have a roof, but it's neat, it's maintained, it's preserved. You go up further and you got the Jewish cemetery. It's clean, it's preserved, and it's kept. You go into the old church cemetery where one of the biggest barbaric murderers as an enslaved on this island has his mausoleum, Mr. Moore. It's been neat, kept it, and preserved. Yeah? You go to the Catholic burial ground, it's been kept, and it's been neat, and it's preserved, even to the public burial ground. But if you go to the African burial ground plantation, Godet, it's been looted, it's been destroyed, it's been marginalized by white American and European archaeologists over the years. Not to speak about SE-ABG, who are the Center for Archaeology and Research on this island for decades. And Mr. Moore, not Mr. Moore, what's his name again? Derek? Grant Gilmore. Who stole so much from this island? You go to the 18 African burial ground plantation, which was recently excavated in an undignified manner, looted. Mr. Nicholas Botsburg, who is the archaeologist who is working with us right now, at the time said to Mrs. Gesutikau and their team, SE-ABG, you are not allowed to dig any further because you will destroy the near vicinity African village. They went behind his back and continued digging and destroyed for more than 2/3 of that African village, which is over there. You go to the Congo burial ground, it's like a jungle, and it's in private hands. The Godet is more interesting because it's Fort Amsterdam and Fort Rotterdam, along with our ancestral burial ground. Now, in the Dutch law, an individual citizen cannot own a fort. But yet, the burial ground and 2 forts are in hands of an individual citizen. And all of them have been destroyed, looted, in contrast to that of the other heritage sites. What does that picture say to us?
When you mention being African, it's like, no, that's a taboo, because we always link it with negativity, right? Whether it is negamancy or what have you, and you don't want to be aligned with that. So you was taught in the sense we hear, and that's it. Similar to taken from the 60s, 70s, because America was always the forefront of the world, not Africa. And I would take it from the struggle of the Black Panthers and what have you. It's only a few will take it in, a revolution, right, about our existence as a people. But anything to do with resisting, we always want to stay in our comfort zone. So therefore, we've been teaching our children or the offsprings, look, don't get yourself in trouble, because, hey, life, things could change tomorrow. But as I said, if you doesn't change, or don't get involved with the change, then nothing will change.
When Kenneth called me and he had a conversation with you, he had shown you what it looked like, and you said, but Kenneth, I don't see the people. Yeah. And I went back and within, and you gave, just by saying what you said, the book became this.
Yes.
So I wanted to thank you. I was full out of creativity, but then you came with that.
Yeah.
I don't see the people statement.
The faces.
The faces. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Yeah, and
You're welcome.
not only Brother Bartholdi, but also on behalf of the members of the Alliance, because when we presented this cover to them, everybody was actually enthusiastic and found it extraordinary and unique. So we're gonna present this to you as a token of recognition for thinking along with us. Derek is right here. Derek was commissioner at the time as well. The Dutch cannot give us no answer, and nobody can give us no answer up until today. What are the future plans? All they're saying, future plans. And so our argument initially was to re-earth our ancestors here where they were taken from. And they refused that.
Because they have plans.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the name of this burial ground?
This is, like I said yesterday, the 18th century African burial ground plantation.
Okay. An important step, if you haven't done this yet, is getting a legal expert to ascertain the legality, if I reuse that word, of the processes, the actions that the government and its partners have undertaken, and the current status of the property that they have transferred and retransferred. That's one. Two, I'm interested in whether we in the Alliance have been consistent and persistent in demanding that our members be part of all of these government forces, committees, and so on, because we have a right to be part of it. The third thing is broadly have the people of Statia being empowered to be a significant part in the preservation, protection, and maintenance of the heritage, just like the heritage of other people. You know, this is a real lever you have, the dramatic differences between our heritage and the heritage of other cultures. And I think that a good strategy must be the education of people here, because the more people are educated, the more vigilance you're going to get, and the more opposition to the continuing insults. And we have to link the state of our ancestral parks. I don't call them burial grounds anymore, they're ancestral parks. And we have to link the state of our ancestral parks to continuing colonialism in the worst form of neglect, the worst form of insult, the worst form of saying to our people here that we get taxes from you, but you really don't matter. You have no voice in how your monies are spent. You have no voice in how things are done. Even your most sacred sites, we could desecrate them and we could lock you out of making decisions.
So image forming is so important. And if you look at the Netherlands, even in the Rijksmuseum, a famous painting, what they call the Nachtwacht. You will go in there and you will see every white image. But when you look closely, you will see the African enslaved person hide away in between them. And you have this thing where you call in the Netherlands kastelen, castles and outside areas. All of these castles are full of these paintings. And they are expressing the same image constantly. The white image is forefront, and so hidden in there, you will find African people images hide away as enslaved people at the same time, who were either serving
always in a subservient position.
Right, exactly. So, Brother Kimani, we are taking those steps, but it's steps by step.
No. These are not fights that are won overnight.
No. Yeah, and another thing which outside of the Prime Minister 3 element, he spoke about recognition of the crime, reparation, reconstruction. But we add 2 to it. There should be a pledge that the state should pledge that they will make sure that this type of genocide, atrocity never take place ever again.
Yes, as Mr. Uvaleo is saying, my name is Martin Opstambapure. I am, by training, a journalist. I am the founder of Afro Magazine in the Netherlands. I'm also the founder of the Broos Institute in the Netherlands. And I'm also, like Dr. Nehusi was saying, a proud member, hopefully supporter of the Alliance. And in my contribution tomorrow, I'll be addressing the need for changing the narrative. Like Kenneth was saying, we have been pushed into this mold where we only look at things from a Eurocentric perspective, totally disregarding who we really are.
May we know more about ourselves and about each other, increase the respect, as John said, for each other based on this knowledge and understanding, and may that knowledge contribute to our continued liberation. Ashe.
Ashe. Blessed. I hope that our mindset could change with the knowledge in which we are developing and develop on the shoulders of our ancestors. Ashe.
Ashe. May our future generation firmly rooted on the heritage and richness of the culture of the older generations.
Ashe. Amen. Thank you, Mrs. Francis, Honorable Governor.
The history of slavery on St. Eustatius and throughout the wider Caribbean reveals not only unimaginable suffering, but extraordinary resilience. Our ancestors endured hardship with courage. They built families when families were torn apart. It was the norm to tear families apart. They preserved culture when it was threatened. They carried hope when hope seemed impossible.
But I also believe our ancestors would challenge us. They would ask us why, for so many years, we allowed ourselves to become disconnected from our own history. Because the truth is, for many years, our relationship with our own history has existed in a paradox. We know it, but we don't always speak about it. We acknowledge it, but we don't always embrace it, especially publicly. There has been a certain timidity, discomfort, and even shame associated with parts of our history. Not because our ancestors gave us a reason to be ashamed, but because history taught us to feel that way.
Emancipation reminds us that freedom was hard won. It calls on us not only to remember the past, but to honor it through our actions. As leaders, as families, and as a community, we have a responsibility to protect our heritage. Today, I know my colleague council member always states that at the end of slavery, our ancestors symbolically threw away their blue bead. I choose to wear my blue bead as a memory to never ever forget the sacrifice that was made for me to be here today, to stand in the position that I have. It did not come cheap. And I feel that is the least that I can do, which is to remember. So may their spirits and sacrifice forever bless St. Eustatius. Thank you.
The question, I believe, our people, sometimes they have questions, want answers, and my questions to them is, do you know what you want? So start thinking of that question. When someone asks you, what do you want? You have an answer. Not just start thinking about the answers. I think that is a weakness. And I hope, like what I said, I always, most of the time when we do libations, I usually say the same thing. And I hope it catches on. Knowledge increase, ignorance decrease. Thank you.
Education, awareness, the development of reclaiming what was ours, our history, our knowledge, from an African-centered point of view. It also entailed that we focus more on the transgenerational future of our young people. And in all of that, yes, economical resources is necessary, but it's much more than economical resources. It's also looking at the contemporary experience and situation where the transgenerational trauma it continues to persist in our communities today. All of that need to be repaired. So what we are really doing here today is setting the path for our future generation to continue on. As our ancestors resist and lay down that path as to where we are today, cherishing the notion of freedom.
Colonialism could not allow its victims to know their own history. Now, we usually think about the victims of colonialism only as enslaved people, and black people, as we say, as a generality. That's not true. Most white people were also victimized by colonialism. This might come as a startling statement, but I wish to engage us on that, because both groups of people, the great number of people on both sides of this divide that was imposed upon us, were victimized by, I was about to say faulty knowledge, but I think I can say false knowledge and faulty socialization. And let me say that every institution we could think about was used to achieve that unholy purpose. And let me name some of those institutions: the school, the church, the laws, the newspapers, the radio station. Every facilitator of information was used to destroy truth, promote untruth, and this was the ultimate objective: imprison the minds of the majority. Humanity was born in Africa, in black skin and fizzy hair, under a tropical sky. There was no other race around them. It might sound startling, but it's a fact, and there are other things. The forest culture, the forest laws, the forest prayers were African. We don't have time to go into all of that, but I want to locate libation in this, because other cultures have done what human beings always do, and should, in my estimation, always do. If you see other people with something that serves your purpose, copy it, take it, but always, especially in these times we call modern, acknowledge where you got it from. And in the context of colonialism, enslavement, and so forth, if you don't acknowledge where you got it from, you're a thief. It's as simple as that, because you know better. Libation is part of the story of death. Libation is mentioned at least 63 times in the Bible. Are you startled? At least 63 times in the Bible. Not as libation, the word, but as drink offering, singular, and drink offerings, plural. That's libation. It's a drink offering. It's known for thousands of years, long before the Bible. In Africa, we could talk about Leviticus. That's African culture.
We must remember that our foreparents were treated as commodities and subjected to chattel slavery for more than 300 years. From the 17th century onward, the Dutch trade in Africans was centered largely in Curaçao and Eustatius. Seychelles was known as the Golden Rock for good reasons. At the height of the trade in the 18th century, about 3,200 people lived on this island. Today the population is about 3,200 people. During that period, Seychelles became a major center of free trade, where the Dutch and other European merchants, Jews and others profited from buying and selling goods, including men, women, and children. We commemorate those who were lost by remembering, honoring, and paying tribute to their lives. Alongside Vansetma, many other Caribbean figures also deserve recognition for helping to shape our identity,
our way of living, and our understanding of who we are.
But when we talk about the preservation of heritage, and you've been on the island there for many times, if you look at the Dutch Reform Burial Ground and Church, if you go through the alley right here, the Jewish synagogue always doesn't have a roof. It's maintained and it's kept and it's preserved. If you go up and you look at the Jewish cemetery, it's preserved and it's kept neat. If you look at the old church cemetery, where one of the biggest barbaric murderers on this island, Mr. Moore, as an enslaver, in his mausoleum is being put to rest. It's being kept and it's being maintained. If you look at Fort Orania here, where millions have been invested in, it's being kept and maintained. It's even now restricted to the public, whereof when you look at international treaties and laws, a community has the rights to have access to their heritage. But the contrast, the stunning contrast, is everywhere where we go on this island. We will see that African heritage and sacred places, like the Godep, sacred places where our ancestors have been laid to rest after they've been killed by hard labor or spontaneously being murdered, are being diluted, marginalized, destroyed. If we look at the 18th century African burial ground at the airport site and the nearby vicinity of the African village, it's been destroyed, marginalized, looted, as well where our 69 ancestors, after 5 years, as a matter of fact, because they were excavated in 2021, and are still in plastic boxes in a so-called heritage house and not being in a dignified manner re-earthed as yet. If we look at the Congo burial ground, it's like a jungle. So what I'm saying here, while we speak about preservation of heritage, everything on this island, when it comes to the colonial sites, which are dominant on this island, are being preserved or kept net. Whether or not they are on a UNESCO protected list or not, that's not the point. They are being kept and being preserved. Why is the African sites or sacred places are being systematically destroyed, looted, and neglected?
When those shots were fired in the fort, our people were still in the field. That's a fact. This monument here is actually depicting those shots fired in the fort. But at the end of the day, that has nothing to do with us as a people. I think those 6 enslaved men back then that started that revolt, they got a plaque on the wall over there, but I think they should get a monument here, where people can actually see who they were. All they got is a plaque on a wall over there. But the shots fired in the fort that had nothing to do with us got a complete monument over here in the middle of town. I think that's something we need to stop and think about. Where our priorities lie.
We both commended the commissioner for making today happen, despite the fact that you wanted to change the narrative. By changing the narratives, today is where it starts, if I'm not mistaken. Today is where we can demand that attention that we all agree that should be given to other narratives, right?
Yeah.
So, thank you, and I hope that we can take it to the next level, that we can continue this. That's why my libation wish was, today shouldn't just be about today. Today should be about tomorrow, about the next day, about the day after, right? That was my contribution.
But I think for the fact that we are sitting here today, right on this spot,
yes, sir,
says something as well. You know, because we're right in front of a monument that has
nothing to do
with us. But we are celebrating 250 years anniversary.
And the 16th of this year, November, it will be a grand moment to commemorate and celebrate Johannes de Graaf, And you're right, because in 1776, the 16th of November, correct, our ancestors have been forced enslaved free slaves. They have been, in that time, being traded, the chattel enslavement, the plantation economical structure, and so forth. So again, the education we are getting and the symbols, the monuments, which are visual all over in the public space, is how our children image forming also will be influenced.
When you come to Statia and you look at all of our physical structures, just look at the infrastructure. What African symbols do we see here? What are the African symbols? If we are talking about the so-called lingering of, all the structures that we see are not necessarily representative of our Africanness. We have the Jewish synagogue, the Dutch Reformed Church, Fort Oranje. All of these are non-African symbols. So now it brings me to the burial. Our struggle has been long, since 2021. We are now in 2026, and we are fighting for the dignified reburial of the ancestors. And that reburial is scheduled for November 13th, 2026. We are working along with the Executive Council, with the Heritage Inspectors, and Central, the community, to make that happen. So we hope that everyone will give their input and come this afternoon to the other location where we'll be talking some more about the reburial ceremony, because it is necessary. It is time that our children not only between the ages of 10 and 14, but all of our children, when they walk the streets of Statia, they should see the Africanness that is in all of us as well, because that is missing on this island. And we have to, and we will do something about it. Thank you.
Today is a special day in the sense that we are here today not only to celebrate, but to honor our ancestors who went through tremendous suffering and torment in the form of enslavement. Today we are here to commemorate them, and go through with various speakers.
Forgive me for not knowing much about the history of Statia, but my parents were born in Suriname, so we share the same history. In Suriname, the enslavement of African people was legally determined on July 1st, on 1863, but for the next 10 years, our ancestors still had to work under pretty much the same circumstances, but they got a small pay. 10 years of state supervision. The Dutch were afraid of losing their property, and with that their income and prosperity. They wanted to be compensated for their loss and needed time to find new workers who had to be brought over from the east. But they were also afraid what would happen once the Africans were declared free. They might take revenge, or as they put it, cause chaos. Because living in freedom required discipline, and without the enslavers to enforce discipline on them, who knows what would happen. After this period of 10 years, some of the Africans bought their own land and became farmers, for example in the district of Para, where my family is from. The colonial government imposed high taxes on these African farmers, but the people of Para refused to pay. The farmers stood their ground, and that led to change. The past few days here in Statia, I learned about your local hero, Thomas Dupersoy, who also fought for freedom. And these are just two examples of how freedom wasn't given, it had to be taken.
I'm going to share the following. We are talking about our heroes, we are talking about ancestors, etc., etc., but I guarantee you, no one in this room heard about these names in school. No one in this room. No one. And the names are London, Friday, Rosaline, and her 6 children, and others attempting to reach freedom in St. Kitts. These were enslaved persons. So what did London do on that night? He got into this small fishing boat along with Friday. Rosalind was the girlfriend of London. And so they were sailing around the island looking to see if there were any enslaved persons attempting to be free in St. Kitts. So they all got on this small fishing boat, made an attempt to go to St. Kitts. Do we know why they were making an attempt to go to St. Kitts? Do we know?
Slavery was abolished in St. Kitts already. Slavery was abolished in St. Kitts. 1838.
That is correct. Because there was a rule that if enslaved persons escaped from Statia and ended up in St. Kitts, they would not be returned to Statia. So they made a dash for freedom. But it was a dilapidated boat. As they were crossing the channel, the boat started to leak. So what did they have to do? They turned back and they came to Statia. They came back. And in the morning of April 2027, they were captured. 2 of them received 50 lashes. 50 lashes. They did not make it to freedom that day. But we are seated here, we are eating. Look at this space. We are free to eat, to converse. These persons paid with their lives. Freedom, that's what they wanted. And as I'm saying, I'm sure no one in this room knew about this story before. And you can find it online. Land of Hope and Dreams, Slavery and Abolition in the Dutch Leeward Islands. So Rosalind and her children, we do not know what happened after that. But we know that slavery was not abolished in St. Eustatius until 1863. So we can only imagine, Papa Upu, you are a storyteller. We can only imagine what happened to them when they were recaptured.
The transition from slavery, it brought freedom, but it did not bring economic equality. No compensation from government, no land, no access to education and credit, and a weak economy. As one of the post-emancipation studies concludes, formerly enslaved people found themselves in Statia, found themselves in a miserable socio-economic position. Jollification, partner hand, and weights were critical economic strategies. I'm listing 4 economic benefits of jollification. 1, labor pooling. Community members came together to build houses, clear land, plant crops, harvest provision, dig wells, or even complete other labor-intensive tasks. So that's 1 economic benefit. 2, another economic benefit of jollification. Reciprocity rather than wages. Instead of monetary payment, participants receive food, drink, music, here's the economic part, the most important part, and the expectation that assistance will return when needed. Yeah? Number 3, reducing cost. Freed people who lack cash to still obtain labor for essential projects. Number 4, these are economic benefits of jollification. Community resilience. Jollification strengthens social networks that provided security in the times of poverty, drought, hurricanes, and Statia had some at least 3 in the first 40 years after emancipation.
The first time I watched this video,
I found myself cheering for this little block, hoping that it would eventually find a spot. But then I realized that the block was getting smaller and smaller, and they kept heaping up other obstacles. And the little block kept getting smaller to fit inside whatever gap would be left. We never know if it eventually finds a spot. And I realized, isn't that the story of black people? Constantly being blocked from where we want to go, always encountering obstacles placed there by the system. So we continuously adapt. We make ourselves smaller than we actually are. And still they take. They've taken away our past, our freedom, our identity, our religions, our culture, our names. And when we develop new things, they're quick to jump on that too. We shrink and we make ourselves smaller. We make ourselves fit in whatever they leave us. We happily do. In Suriname, we have a saying for this, sakafasi. We're taught to be humble, to give away the air, even the air that we breathe. And some of us think that's how it's supposed to be. So we never reach our true potential. But how can we if we always have to fit in the scraps? The Indians have their own schools, the Muslims have their own schools, Jews have their own schools, white people have their own schools. All schools are in essence white. Black people are the only ones who do not have their own educational institutes. We send our children to white schools where they are taught to be white people in a world that will consistently tell them that they are not white. Our children are educated to fail.
African people throughout the world are busy reclaiming our heritage. In Station, the most significant aspect of that reclamation is the burial grounds. I call them ancestral parks, and I hope you follow me in this, because those are parks, or supposed to be parks, in which we honor and glorify our ancestors by preserving their remains, keeping the surroundings clean, putting up signs and doing whatever we could do, so that people who walk through there would only feel at peace. They would be educated also. This must be a place where we could take visitors and say that, you know, so-and-so, this is so-and-so's resting place. So-and-so is significant to Station because so-and-so did this thing of significance. So-and-so fought for this progress or something like that. That's how we memorialize our ancestors.
If you know who you are, right, you know where you want to go. But if you look at the direction that our government has taken, we don't know ourselves. So we are always going with the wind because we don't understand who we are. We don't care to understand who we are. So it is the minute you say something. I lived in the Netherlands for 9-10 years. I learned a lot in the Netherlands. I also learned a lot about myself in the Netherlands. So when I speak because I have experienced it. I have no issues with the color of a person's skin, but I know me. I know where I come from, and I know where I want to go. And if I always have to change my tone to be able to fit in a room or in a conversation, then I'd rather not be there. So it will always be this way until we understand exactly who we are and where we want to go. The king, I say the king did, he gave apologies a few years back and he made funds available. I'm simplifying it because I want to say that he gave the money. My foundation received some money from him to do a postgraduate course in September. And I'm doing this in collaboration with a Ghanaian university, right? So I was there in Ghana a few months back. And I gave the director of the university a sum of money as partner university that we're working with. And he just pushed the money away without realizing how much money it was. So I explained to him after that if the Jews get money, the money stays in their community. How many days, Natalie? Jews, money, 7 days? How long does money stay in the Jewish community? How long does it circulate?
They think forever.
Because they have the system. The money continues to circulate. In the Indian community, in the Chinese community, the same thing. In the black community, when we get money, it's gone within a few hours. So I made him realize that me giving him that money, and he told me when I gave him the money, he told me I'm using this money to fix my roof. I'm calling the electrician to do this and this, do that. And I explained to him how much his statement about the electricity meant to me, because it meant that the money that the king gave me would stay in Africa forever. Right? Because he would pay the electrician would pay somebody else would pay somebody else. I practice what I preach. I preach black economics. Not an economist like this gentleman here, but I do practice it. And I think we should practice it. Also, we don't need others. Again, there's 1.7 billion of us. That's a B, not an M. Billion of us on this earth. And we don't seem to realize it. So I wanted to thank you because the little fan that you bought, I bought it from a lady all the way in Ghana. And I took it here and you bought it. So you made sure that she can make another fan. So when I go back, I can sell too. See what I mean? So I wanted to appreciate you for that.
Brother Marvin, I want to speak directly to you and also to Brother Zimmerman. I want to thank you for what you proposed. You observed what was happening in the room, and you said to me, Shumada, I think we need to go out with an intensive media campaign, communication in regards to the reburial. And then you told me, you know where to find me. So if we're talking black economics, we're talking battering system, this is it. So I'm going to take you up on that offer because I do realize that there is a lot of ignorance, and I do realize that we need to bring more information to the forefront. Brother Zimmerman was not able to speak. He's sitting here, but I do want to turn to him, and I want to also thank you. He is the architect that we contracted to work on this project, but it has become more than a project for you because you paid your own ticket. You are staying here on your own cost because you are passionate about this. And what this says is that it is not always about money. We have a lot of knowledge and we have talent, and if we could sometimes share those talents without asking for money, because we don't always have the means, I think we can accomplish much. So I do want to thank you, Zimmerman in particular, and I want to thank you also, Brother Marvin, for bringing forward that suggestion. That is what I wanted to communicate.
So I rather stick to my designing, architecture, those kind of stuff. That's my expertise. That's what I dominate most. And that part of politics, I mean, only after 20 years in St. Martin, when I went back home, I decided to affiliate myself to a political party. And I choose that party because they are aiming at total independence. Real total independence, that's what we're aiming at. As for myself, I'm longing the day that we don't have to look at none of those colonizers. For me, the decolonization process is taking way too long. Everybody looking at Europe, everybody looking at Holland. There must come a day where we are completely on our own, doing on our own stuff, whether we do it wrong, good, bad, or whatever we do it. But no, it's taking too much time. So thank you all.
Sister Shumara, don't worry. I gladly take it again to come back because I'm part of this and I want to see our ancestors being put back into the ground.
Thank you all for your contribution. Thank the audience for your input, togetherness, and also your contribution. Thank the technicians, Mr. Kota and his technology and everything. Much thanks and appreciation. All of you who like to drink rum and dance from 6 o'clock up until 10, this stage will be full of different musicians to entertain you all. I beg your pardon? And I know that. So I want to bring out special thanks to my nephew, who's constantly doing all of the recording and preserving the data which we create voluntarily in many ways. He's always there. Never tired or weary to come out and do his part. Lano, much thanks and appreciation for your patience, your togetherness, and everything. Much thanks to everyone. Our pleasure.